In this 100 Days adventure, we're going to be saving the world in Dragonblade, a game where you must forage, craft, fight, and build your way to saving Tarragona from Ziggerath, an evil dragon that has banished all two legs from this world and frozen time. During those 100 days, I have 4 goals. Get a full set of dragon armor, the best in the game, acquire a 5-star mount, build a base, and lastly defeat Ziggerath to free this world. Starting off on day 1, I needed to create my epic hero with a very suave mustache. Ready to start my adventure, I ran over to Kitsu, my guiding spirit in this series, to get my first starting quest. This is required to talk to Monkey, a lovely raccoon merchant. After purchasing some linen, I set out to find a spot to place my settlement. The settlement would be where everything would be centered for crafting, mounts, and so much more. I channeled my inner loot goblin as I ran around the world. During my random walking around, I managed to work on my sprinting skill. This would be important later as my overall character level increased by 1 every 10 skill levels I gained in the various skills. Near the end of day 1, I found the spot I wished to plant my settlement flag and marked my territory. Kitsu visited me to give me my next set of quests, which involved chopping down my first tree. I ran back to camp and set up my first 2 of many stables I ended up having. I then upgraded my settlement. This allows me to have more room to place crafting stations and to get better items in the shop. We also have to have max settlement in order to fight Ziggerath, so we had a few more upgrades to go. The following quest was to set up an egg shop, which I completely ignored and picked up my first 2 horses. In order to level up mounts, you have to find others of the same species and basically sacrifice them to level them up. Oh boy. So our new green horse got his first bit of experience up to 2-star. I then spotted a pure white wolf that I named Fang. And just for context, I would not get too incredibly attached to a lot of these because they would be experience for other ones. I then went on a tree chopping mission to make more stables, egg shop, and my own Noonki shop, because I would be able to have my own raccoon and be able to sell things to them and buy new recipes. Now, you can purchase eggs to get other mounts in this game, but I would never use that because money was always scarce. I got a unicorn egg from completing this quest, and it would take a little bit of time to be ready. I then went over to the shop, picked up a few recipes, and in order to craft different items, you have to pay gold to unlock the recipe, and then you get the materials in order to craft it. So gold was going to be very important these next coming days. After purchasing and placing an apprentice workbench, I realized I needed some wood in order to craft it, even though I had just spent so much time chopping wood. So as day 3 rolled around, I went on a tree slaying mission and crafted a pickaxe as I would need to start collecting some stone. After completing the stone quest from Kitsu, I placed down a quest board. This would be a great way to earn some in-game gold with simple quests like exploring the map, killing mobs, and gathering some resources. As I left camp to start working on these quests, I spotted a Pegasus in the wild. These were the rarest spawning mount. I took it home, saddled it up, and our first permanent mount to join us. I turned in a few quests to get some easy gold. Kitsu then immediately gave me the quest to get my settlement up to level 7 to unlock the next path to defeating Ziggerath. I went over to the shop, spent most of my new gold getting all starting crafting stations along with some armor. After putting down a chest for some storage and cleaning out some of my inventory, I grabbed some basic armor and put down Lobo's summoning station. On day 4, I summoned Lobo. He was the spirit that I was going to be able to level up and to be able to improve my inventory, space, stamina, and to give me some more health. I grabbed 2 inventory upgrades, an extra heart, and more stamina. I then went and sold the extra gear I had made and channeled my inner loot goblin again. This would also include bringing back some horses to feed my other horses for experience. I fought my first mob on the start of day 5 as I continued looting and gathering resources. I then used a shovel to dig under one of the houses sunken into the ground. These are usually full of resources. After talking to Lobo for more inventory space, I realized I needed to make a few more of the starting crafting stations. So I went and tunneled my inner mole rat and tunneled down to farm up some easy stone to make a tanning rack, mechanical workbench, kiln, and cooking fire. Day 6 started with some resource collection, breaking my first hatchet. I then put some mushrooms to cook and some logs to make some charcoal. I then put down another chest to help with the random flowers and monster parts I had collected. I took a quick trip over to Nuki's shop to get a few items. Some of the key items being a shield, a bow, and some monster wings. Monster wings were important because it would help with basically giving me slow falling and preventing fall damage, which could kill me. Then getting more stone and getting my first pieces of copper. From here on out, because this game is very resource intensive, unless we're getting new resources, I'm just going to be glossing over it, or in total, this video would be about 6 hours long. During day 7, I managed to find a 2-star horse, but the game bugged and I could only ride it backwards. This would happen several times. After taking the horse back and a quick reload, the problem was fixed. After getting back into the game, I went to the south, collected the second landmark, and activated the jaunt there. Jaunts are used in order to teleport around the world, and I would need to unlock all of them, especially when I was collecting resources. While wandering around, I managed to find a unicorn, brought it back to camp, completed a few quests, and set a few things to begin processing in my various workstations. Day 8, I bought a stone hut. Beds and huts would allow me to heal and get an extra heart. This would be important later on, especially when I was starting to focus more on combat. I realized I needed a furnace at this point, tried to place it down, realized I was missing a single log. After some mild deforestation, I got it placed down, and this allowed me to start smelting copper ore. I grabbed my Pegasus, was about to go venturing off to start another quest, and found another wolf. Squirreling is going to be happening a lot. I'm not sorry. After returning the wolf, I grabbed the Pegasus again, started towards the other landmarks on the map. After I found the one southwest of me, I headed north, saw a unique horse. It was a zombie horse. I landed and mounted up. On day 9, I hit the west landmark on the zombie horse. After grabbing the Angel of Light, I headed back to camp, dropping off the zombie horse, picking up the Pegasus again. I started back on my mission to collect the other landmarks. This went on into day 10, grabbing the final one at the Elder Tree before flying home to base camp. Squirreling my way to finding another dire wolf. I spent the rest of the day riding around to get my skill XP up and finding more mounts for XP. I turned in all the quests I had to get just shy of 4k coins, talked to Lobo to level up, upgraded my camp, grabbed a few new recipes from my favorite raccoon vendor. Most important was the new pickaxe and some new armor. I also purchased a jaunt for my camp, which would allow me to teleport straight from my base any other jaunts in the world. I placed in an anvil to allow me to get some better armor, and a new crafting bench to get some better weapons. I crafted a new hat and started working on some quests before selling my old gear. Day 12 was a resource collecting and monster killing for quests, leveling up my mount with sacrifices. I did craft my monster wings on this day, which now would allow me to glide and, if I had stamina, keep me from getting fall damage. At the end of day 12 into 13, I created the next stage of stalls for my mounts, and I moved my mounts around a bit. Also crafted myself a bronze pickaxe, which would allow me to mine rare ore. I took my Pegasus out on a flight for some wood and monster killing. Found another zombie horse. This one was a demon zombie, and I would end up keeping this one. On day 14, while I was out, I found a fire unicorn. For context, the only difference between unicorn and horses is unicorns had a horn and glowed. Literally nothing else. Pretty much day 14 turned into farming mounts to level up the rest of them. But at the end of the day of 14, I went ahead and decided to get on my Pegasus and work on unlocking the rest of my map for the quest. This continued into day 15, and at this point I was already level 8. And working on this quest was going to get me some very, very easy levels. This went really well until I saw some wolves, and the squirreling began again. After getting more inventory from Lobo and turning in some quests, I bought a few new weapon upgrades. Day 16 started with making a new axe, a bow, and arrows for myself, and then mining my first bit of iron ore. With mining, there was times that the ores would spawn underground, so you would have to terraform the area in order to collect them, which also resulted in me getting levels in terraforming, which resulted in some very easy early levels. At the end of day 16, I had enough resources to craft a blacksmith furnace. This would be so I could smelt iron, copper, and bronze ores. Day 17 started with mount collecting. I wanted a 5-star mount soon, as it was one of my big goals. The difference in mount stars is increased stamina when they ran. Weapons, armor, and tools had the very same system. The more stars it has, the more damage or defense, as well as increased durability. So getting higher star weapons and mounts was definitely something I needed to be working on. Day 17 also saw me battle some of the lower level slimes to not only get resources, but to start leveling up my bow skill and work on more quests. Day 18, I found a red demon undead horse and I stabled him. The undead horses, unfortunately, were only able to be leveled up by other undead horses, so leveling this guy up would take some time and not my first choice for a 5-star mount. I then purchased the next upgrade for anvils and crafted an iron pick, which this would allow me to harvest silver ore, which was the second best ore in the game. And day 19 was mostly resource gathering. Near the end of the day, I took on a normal chest. Now, these chests are scattered throughout the world, and there is normal, blue ones, and then red ones. And the blue and red ones are harder difficulties. In order to unlock them, however, you do need a key from the shop, which costs gold, and you fight waves of enemies. And the rarer the chest, the more enemies, and the stronger the enemies are. But this also gives me more rewards as gold and runes. On day 20, I found one of my favorite colorations of wolves, a sunrise dire wolf. Yes, I took it home and stabled it, and fed it the rest of the wolves I'd been storing. After spending most of the day gathering resources, I crafted a silver pickaxe. On day 21, with collecting some mounts, killing a few mobs, and getting a new bow recipe and crafting this lovely new bow. That's something I didn't mention on our previous days is that each of the major weapon classes has its own skill set, so bow, polearm, two-handed, and one-handed weapons all have their own different skill sets, so leveling them up would allow me to get some easy levels, especially early on. Day 23 was spent mostly just running around collecting mounts and being an absolute squirrel. I wish I could say that there was more on this day, especially considering these days last for roughly about 10 minutes apiece. But no. Day 23, I had realized everything needed wood and gold. I went to the beach to the east of my camp, farmed up the palm trees, and this would be my best way to be able to farm up. Because palm trees took less hits than normal trees, and there was a lot of them out there. I also did a few of the chests near the end of the day in order to get some gold, and returned to the camp to turn in a few more quests. The start of day 24, I finally placed down my own jaunt at my base. Placed armor and saddles on 2 of the mounts to finish up some more quests, then jumped on my Pegasus to start the long process of unlocking 100% of the map. Now, I wish I could say that this was quick, but because this Pegasus was only 1 star, this continued through day 26 of me running around the map to unlock it. But on day 26, I was finally able to return home and turn in the quest. However, the massive amount of flying put me up to level 12. After turning in the quest, I went to upgrade the settlement to level 6. Day 27 saw me placing the highest tier of stable you can place, and this would be needed for 5-star mounts. I also needed it for a quest, so 2 for 1 there. I spent the rest of the day farming resources, going well into day 28. The main goal at this point was to farm up some ore that I needed for the high-end armor, and to finish up the last few quests I had. Day 29, I returned home, did some much-needed inventory management, smelted ores, stared into the void. Contemplation apparently is not a skill, though, in this game. Worked on leveling up my terraforming by digging a tunnel before more farming. I truly became Squirrel Guard with mounts at the start of day 30, with naming a few of my mounts. I wish I could say that this only happened to last for 1 day, but it very much so bled into day 31. I then went over and spent my level ups at Lobo to have finally 2 full pages of inventory. This would help so much with resource collecting and if I was just running around the world. I then bought the recipes and crafted my first halberd and spear. Finally summoning some courage on day 32, I went to the northern part of the map and fought my first elemental golem. It was a fairly easy fight before heading down to the coast to farm palm trees and full arm skill. You could farm any of the weapon skills, harvesting resources, and this was something I was going to need to start doing. I did take a few cheap shots at the mech golem and started a game of cat and mouse that ran into day 33 where I very promptly died. Wasn't quite ready for that. I would need to farm these guys up in order to get to Ziggerath, but oh well, back to farming resources. At some point, I got tired of it and started spamming buildings in my settlement area to level up my base building. Because yes, this was a very easy way to cheese it by placing God knows what everywhere. Day 34 started with me looking through some of my armor recipes for an upgrade. I crafted a silver pickaxe, placed in an archery target before spam shooting it, because cheesing levels was apparently the thing I wanted to do the most these early days. Then placed the next 2 tiers of cooking stations, an upgraded furnace, alchemy station, which the alchemy station would allow me to make healing potions, which were some of the best healing items in the game. I then decided to start rearranging some of the other stations and removing them, and me staring at armors to buy. I wasn't quite ready to be able to buy the dragon armor, mostly because of the price. So after picking a few that were cheap, and that would give the best armor for the materials I currently had, I crafted a new armor set, other than my amazing hat. After upgrading the base and my armor, I had burned through a lot of the resources I had spent previous days gathering, but selling all my old gear and extras had netted me some lovely gold. I then crafted a bed in the middle of the settlement. Realizing I probably should build a house, I decided to worry about that later. I then spent day 36 gathering resources and fighting a few chests. You know, nothing big. This continued through day 37 into day 38. It was a really good way to level up my polearm skill, but I finally decided on day 38 I needed to go turn in some quests. I sold some of the gear I had gotten. I bought some war chest keys along with doing just some general chores around the settlement. And at this point, I had realized I had too much ore to smelt and found some brain cells and placed another furnace down. Day 39 started with talking to Lobo and jaunting to the mountains to farm some more. This location on the map was the best place to find those higher end ores that I really needed. I went ahead and killed a few elemental golems on the way. I would need their cores in order to craft the final item I needed to go see Ziggerath. So that's what I really needed to do. And this continued through day 40. Well, I continued to farm into day 41, but as I wrapped up my mining trip, I returned home to forge the ore and stare into the abyss. I honestly have no idea what was going on here. As I wandered away to farm resources, I spotted a rainbow unicorn that needed to join me and my menagerie of mounts. And then I ended up placing down another high-end stable. Day 42 was spent rearranging all my mounts and leveling them while I waited for the ores to be smelted. In a moment of genius, I placed another furnace down. Don't know why I hadn't until that point, but I did. More squirreling occurred when I found another zombie horse. This continued into day 43 and 44. On day 44, I started doing a few chests on the Palm Beach near my base. I also took on my first blue chest. 4 waves with only 6 hearts was a little bit rough. I really needed to start investing into some hearts at Lobo at this point, but I was rewarded with a few weapon levels and some monster weapons. On day 45, I returned to camp, sold the horde of monster items from raiding the Palm Beach. I was also able to place down a master level anvil, but was a bit short on resources for the master level workbench. Both of these I really needed for the higher end items. And at this point, I was halfway through level 19. Day 46, I managed to place a master tier workbench and finally crafted a gold pickaxe. And it was a 5-star. Yay! I then spent the rest of the day fighting some lovely monsters and gathering resources. I really needed to start saving gold for the last settlement upgrade. And buying the dragon armor recipes, which were really expensive. Also, there was staring into the abyss. Day 47, I bought and crafted a few new iron weapons. I also was one skill level away from 20 at this point. I then went out and tested a few of my new weapons on some nearby mobs on day 48. So much more damage. So farming gold was going to get a lot easier. This was also a good chance to farm wood, which was the bane of my existence at this point in time. And then scrolling for some mountain leveling, I also managed to hit level 20 on this day. Now the reason I keep referencing the levels is this is also how much I'm able to go back to Lobo to get upgrades for stamina and hearts. D49, I grabbed some keys, went on a chest spree into day 50, just doing the normal and medium chest. I was not ready for the hard ones yet. Returning to my settlement with a full inventory, after selling everything, I went back out and did more chest grinding. I could clear the blue ones in just over a minute. So it was a really good method at this point to get the gold I needed. At this point, using a single-handed weapon and shield was my best weapon combo and for my style of playing. Also, shields were easy to get because they were a mob drop. On day 51, I scrolled my way back to base, getting a few mounts to level up my current ones, filling another full inventory of drops. I then had enough cash to get max settlement with this upgrade. Kitsu gave me the quest to craft the Dragon Blade. Now this was the final thing I needed to get before my grind for the blade and the armor. Day 52 saw me leaving camp for some resource farming and chest clearing. For perspective, I needed close to 10k for a full set of armor, and that wasn't including the large jaunt or the Dragon Blade. Also, along with the ever important and necessary void staring. Day 53 was more of the cycle of me farming resources and farming chests until my inventory was full to return to camp. I did also on this day make a few health potions that I was going to be needing for the red chest and for my ziggerath fight. Day 54, most of this day was me riding my mounts around for levels, finding direwolves and horses to level up my mounts. I did head over to spawn because there's an area where you can try out the other mounts. Many of those did not naturally spawn in the overworld, so if I wanted them, I would have to buy their eggs, which was not likely going to happen in these 100 days because they were thousands of gold. On day 55 was chest day. I had seen that my polearm skill was the lowest, so I wanted to work on that, either with killing mobs or the nearby shrubs. I did have something different happen on this day, other than, you know, what I've been doing for the past 5 days, which is I bought the chest piece for the dragon armor. And for reference, these were going to be a lot of resources in order to craft them, even after I got the gold to buy them. Day 56 started with a trip to the lovely Palm Beach. I still needed a ton of logs to create coal to smelt the ore for the chest piece, and I needed more gold. So much gold. I was level 22 at this point, which I was starting to make headway on the hearts and stamina that I needed. On day 57, I returned home with my hoard and bought the Dragon Blade. I still had nowhere near the resources to craft it, but buying those recipes was half the battle. I spent some time mining the ore near my settlement before going to the northern part of the map where ores were more plentiful. This was also where I could take out some golems as they spawned in this area. This went on for day 58 and 59. And for context for the dragon armor, I needed 24 of each gold, silver, and iron to craft each piece. And there is a game pass that gives you double drops, but I wasn't running any game passes in this playthrough. So I stayed up there until I had enough resources to get most of it. My mining run continued through the first half of day 60 before I returned home to start smelting again. Which I then realized that I still didn't have enough coal for everything, so guess where we went back to? The lovely Palm Beach for some logs. So with the start of day 61, I slowly made my way back to camp, set the ores to cook, made some more healing potions, and realized I should grind for some more gold while I was waiting on the ore to cook up. Day 62, I returned, and I went ahead and checked the requirements for the Dragon Blade, and started prepping the rest of the resources that weren't ore-based. And halfway through day 62, I managed to craft the Dragon Blade. Kitsu appeared and told me I needed to craft a large jaunt, and this was our method to be able to reach Ziggerath in his domain. But the giant dragon would need to wait, because we managed to also craft the first piece of dragon armor on this day, and it looked really good. I also bought the recipe for the best gold spear and some building parts. I realized I hadn't even started building a base and we were already 62 days in. I mean, I had some stuff laying around, but it wasn't like a base. I then made another dragon chest piece to sell. It's one of the best items you can craft and it does sell for a lot. And then I bought the recipe for the dragon breeches. I also crafted some arrows and a brand new spear. In day 63, I actually started trying to build an outer section of my base from a mental image I had in mind. Now, if you have ever played this game, you know that the building system is difficult to say the best and overly time consuming. Lucky for y'all, this is pretty much a compilation, so you can skip over the pain and suffering, because the pain and suffering for me continued through day 64. All I wanted was a simple castle outer wall with all of the openings and gates facing towards the cardinal directions of north, south, east, and west. That's all I wanted. Shouldn't take this long. Luckily, halfway through the day, I ran out of resources and needed more, so I went deforesting. I am totally not frustrated at the clipping system for this building mechanic. No, not at all. I did take some time to let some frustration out on a few chests. I then returned to my base on day 65 with my haul, crafted more potions, and realized I needed more ore. Back to the north for me! The ore scavenger hunt continued through day 66, and I did make sure to kill golems while I was up there, so I could not squirrel horribly like I had for the first 40 days. On day 67, I came back to my settlement. After getting my ores ready, I started working on the base again. It was going to be slightly off, and my OCD was going to have to deal with it, as will yours. At the start of day 68, I crafted my dragon breeches. Yes, they're called dragon breeches, and yes, I had to write that into the script. After doing some settlement maintenance, I headed out for some resource gathering for potions and battling chests. We still needed a lot of gold. This went on into day 69, and I returned home, cleared out my inventory, realized I was level 25 now, and was just 2 skill point increases away from 26. On day 70, I got my last 2 skill advances, went back to say hi to Lobo, went out and killed some mobs while I waited for the ore and coal I had set up to start cooking. This continued on into day 71. I returned late on day 71 to feed some of my horses some experience. On day 72, I returned, bought, and crafted a dragon bow. This was the best bow in the game, something I really needed for golems and for ziggerath. After getting more keys, I went out to test out my new bow, and it does so much more damage. I could get more if I crafted better arrows, but that was going to mean more mining, and we only had less than 30 days left. Finally, on day 73, I decided to try out a red chest. This is the hardest in the game. These chests have 5 waves. I got unlucky and got 3 tormentors spawning, and why did I write tormentors? Anyway, tormentors can throw energy balls at you and are generally the most annoying mobs in Dragonblade. I returned to camp after my victory, sold everything before buying a pair of dragon boots and crafting them. I only had 1 piece left, and that was the helmet. On day 74, I realized my direwolf only needed 2 more other wolves in order to be a 5-star mount. So time to go squirrel away and do some resource management. On day 75, I went to the southwest part of the map where there were tormentors at. I needed to be here for a quest, and halfway through the day, I completed it, went back, turned it in, spoke to Lobo for some more hearts. I then took out my direwolf to go grab some wood and stone to add a few more panels to my base on day 76. I channeled my huge gopher spirit to dig out a huge area for some stone. I then spotted 2 wolves running back to base. I got my direwolf up to 5 stars. I then also realized at this point, while I was writing the script for this, that the game must have reset her name at some point, likely when I was moving around staples. I was sad, and didn't change it back. Day 77 started and ended with me working on the base. Getting some of the columns was a true test of my patience, and I generally am told I have a lot of that. I'm aware that I need to focus on going after ziggerath and farming golems and gold, but I really wanted to start working on the base because it was going to be such a huge headache. On day 78, I checked the price for the large jaunt and saw nearly 3k price tag. I still had the helmet to craft as well. We're looking at about 6,000. So I headed over to where a large mech golem was, started farming them, for their cores because I was going to need that for the jaunt. Mat golems were considered the strongest enemy in the game other than Ziggerath, but there's an easy way to cheese them. However, if you mess it up, it hurts a lot. I also did a few chests on this day. On day 79, I started it by staring at this rock. I have no idea why I keep staring into the void while I'm watching this back. Before heading home, I clear my inventory, craft a mountain of arrows. At this point, I did check. I was level 28. I did also see that I didn't have enough ores for the helmet, so back to the mountains I go. With the start of day 80, I headed down to the beach and grabbed some of the resources and to take revenge on the golem that had ended me 40 some odd days ago. And I was actually really happy with myself because I managed to cheese him through most of his health, only took one hit. Then returned home, made some magic thread. This allows me to color my armor from a few choices, and I decided to go with a Dark Knight vibe. Day 81 started with a chest killing spree. I returned back to my settlement, purchased the final piece of dragon armor, which was the helmet, realizing I still was down resources. I also went and double checked what I needed for the large jaunt. Still was a way to go, especially on the plasma cores. So I went ahead and set off to go get some resources, and I was very, very close to level 29. At the beginning of day 82, I started off with a red chest. This one went so much better than my last few. The new armor, weapons was definitely starting to pay off and show. At this point, since we only had a few days left, I kept my squirreling nature down. I had 18 days left to fight Ziggerath, build the rest of my base up, get the rest of the materials I needed for the large jaunt, and my final piece of dragon armor. Day 83, I headed to my favorite farming spot for golems, and I also went and got the last resources I needed for the helmet. I also had a less than lucky fight with another Met Golem, so I don't want to comment. No talking about it. And unfortunately, because of that fight bled into day 84 before I was able to return home, build out some flooring, and rearranged so many of my different stations, including the shop, my alchemy station. I really wanted to get my base built. This resorting of my base continued on through day 85. Not that the world was ending or anything, you know, perpetually stuck in time and no other two legs. No, it was fine. I also was able to craft my final piece of dragon armor, dying at my Dark Knight theme I had been going with. I was actually feeling pretty good and cool at this point, and apparently good enough to go golem hunting. Needing a break from golem hunting, I went ahead and came back and rearranged my stables and my mounts again. Went ahead and placed down a hut in the corner of the base where I was going to end up building my house. I also moved my furnaces into their new areas, which I would end up moving these again, but y'all are going to have to wait. And then checked to see how many more of these cores I needed to collect. On day 86, I went ahead and moved all my chests over to the little spot I had started putting everything in, and then went and teleported to the northeast side of the map that I'd been using to cheese the Met Golems at, and cleared a red chest. For whatever reason, this chest gave me a super hard time and I lost so many hearts. Frustrated with that, I went over and worked on the Met Golem. And this fight took me way too long because I kept getting stuck in the water and stuff kept falling into the water after he died. After that, I returned to camp, I did some chores, and I went out to fight some chests and gather resources for gold. And to also start making some more health potions. I would need quite a few for the Ziggerath fight if it went poorly. However, I did manage to reach level 30 on this day. Yay! Going into the end of the day and into day 88, I bought the recipe for the large jaunt, some saddles, and armor for my mounts, which I went ahead and put on both of my Pegasus and my Direwolf. And yes, I know I didn't need to squirrel, but I really didn't have anything else to spend money on at this point. I also crafted some stamina potions for the upcoming fight, then went out and went to go farm more Met Golems. At the end of the day, I had 6 plasma cores, and I still needed another 6. Started at 89, I went ahead and returned home with the resources I had gathered. I'd realized I can buy the cores, so I bought 4 before I headed out to go farm another golem. Weirdly enough, it went fine. I was actually able to bring enough resources home that I was able to craft just a few more arrows and place down the large jaunt. I started the process to teleport away to go fight Ziggerath. On the start of day 90, I spawned in his fiery domain. I had to climb up several pillars to reach him. I was very easily able to shoot at him. with arrows until he would fall down the arena, where I would need to hit him with the lovely dragon blade we had crafted. The only real issue with him is he shoots fire attacks, and sometimes very quickly. And if you get hit by these, you get knocked down and possibly kicked back. And I got hit 3 times. And each time I got thrown off the platform. So I would have to climb all the way back up to get to him every single time. And whenever I fell off the platform, he would start healing up, undoing all the progress I had previously made. Because of my inability to stop playing with gravity, this fight went into day 91. I'm not happy about this. This is the roughest fight I've ever had playing this game. Then finally, I slayed him. Ziggerath dropped his egg, I picked it up, and went home to find Kitsu with a quest for me to hatch the egg I had obtained. Once I put the egg into a stable, I could either wait 15 plus hours, or I could spend gold to speed it up. Yeah, I went out and I farmed up those resources because I was not about to wait another 15 hours. So after I got the gold, I went ahead and hatched him on up, and I was now the proud owner of a red 1-star dragon, which I happily named Ziggy out of spite. Now, at this point, I have my armor, I've defeated Ziggerath, and I have a 5-star mount. I have 1 left, and it is this stupid base. So at the start of day 92, I started a whole new challenge, which was base building. And if you've never played the game, there's many snapping points, and you think it would make it very, very easy. No, this was my living hell. I frequently had to return over to Nuki's shop to get random little wall parts to make things fit how they were supposed to. But I did try, as we went into day 93, to keep my rage about placing simple flooring on the ground to a minimum. Sadly, I ran out of materials, and I got to go down to my favorite beach for a little bit and harvest up some logs, which didn't seem so bad anymore. Day 94, I went ahead and tunneled for some stone. I really wanted to get this done, and I also didn't want to have to keep coming back out for resources. I did continue to work on my base this day. There was several rage-inducing moments over the next few days. Walls were clipping at weird angles. Having to remove flooring because it really just would not line up. I did decide on creating a second floor, which I started working on day 95, to add aesthetic. And just getting simple flooring down required trickery to a level I don't understand. But I did manage to get the flooring and stairs down. And I was living the big life because I got to put down a double-sized bed. Woohoo! And then I ran out of logs again and I had to go out and farm more. Day 96 continued with the building. I then saw, for whatever reason, the auto clipping on my top wall was heavily misaligned. Now, for those of you with OCD, my give a damn at this point was completely gone because I had been trying to build this base for over 50 minutes at this point. So I was not going to try and fix it, deal with it, and I moved on to the roof, which was a bigger mess. And this clip right here from day 97 should show you about how well that was going, which resulted in me staring into the void of helplessness in the middle of day 97 as well. Don't blame myself for that either. I did manage to finish the roof. It was horribly misaligned, and it had holes in it, but I really didn't care. It was done. So I went and tore down all my workstations and moved them to my house so I could, have a nice pretty place for all my stuff. I even had some time to place some decorations and some chests. It looked like a mess. On day 98, I finally customized my banner because it had been a blob for the longest time, so now at least it was kind of cute. I then went ahead and decided to go ahead and take Ziggy out on their maiden flight. The dragon was so much faster than the Pegasus, and it handled a little bit better while I was controlling it. I then decided it'd be fun to see how far I could glide, mostly because I was trying to figure out some other way to fill this last day. So I went to the highest point on the map, and I started gliding down. I then misjudged how much stamina I had and smacked into the ground and destroyed a poor bush. Oh well. I then went ahead and returned home and realized that I still had a whole day left, so I went ahead and started decorating around the base. And now we come to day 100. So for day 100, we're basically gonna do this is my crib style, looking at everything we got, my inventory, my armor, and checking out everything we did in those 100 days. So I did manage to actually kind of make the base look semi-decent. Putting the jaunts over there, the resources over there. No clue why I didn't move those inside, but We have all of our lovely mounts. I ended up naming our lovely direwolf Maggie. She was a 5-star. We have Ziggy. Our demon undead horse is 3-star. Molten. He was only 4. Sadly, I never got him leveled up. Oh well. Pegasus, which I never could find another one of these guys, so stayed at 1-star. No idea why I got Midnight Rain, which I never actually talked about in any of the days that we got this, but this was a 5-star. And I had a Rainbow Unicorn that was at 3-star. And here is the bane of my existence. Notice the hole. I even put little benches outside. By the way, I never talked about this. You can just walk through the door. We had all of our resources. Everything was put in order. Apparently I can reach the kitchen from the top stairs, which, you know, life goals. We had our nice little lovely house that ignore the holes in the roof. Just a sun. It's just a sunroof. It's okay. Yes, with resources. I actually don't think there's anything in here. No, there isn't. My lovely inventory. Unfortunately, I never did get a 5-star on any of my gear. All of it was 4-star. Other than the golden pickaxe. This was all the gear that I was wearing. Our lovely map. All of the quests completed. We were level 32 when we finished off. I still actually have a life force point to go use. Didn't buy any of the game passes. There you go. Honestly, it was a lot of fun to rediscover the game. I don't think I will ever come back to probably play this again, but it was definitely a lot of fun to come back and revisit. So there you go. That's 100 days in Dragon Blade. Hopefully y'all have enjoyed the video. I do have several other 100 days we're going to start doing. This is content I really like making, and it's been a really fun experience for me. I'll see y'all next time. Bye!